right, let's do this. I was set to go live since it's Wednesday, and I want to do a live show every Wednesday, once a week from now on. So I'm going to try to keep up that program. Uh, I did not prepare like a main topic for this episode. So, by the way, my name is Johannes from The Great Johannes. I named my podcast The Great Johannes Podcast. So you can find that on YouTube as well. And you can join me, of course, if you're watching on YouTube. You can find my channel on TikTok at The Great JMK for as long as it lasts. I've been able to manage to keep my account on TikTok for the past year now. I have lost over a dozen accounts because I used to have like backup accounts and main accounts, and I lost all of them. Like, I think at one point I had a 50,000 followers on one TikTok account. That got taken away. I had like a device ban at some point, but all my accounts were wiped in one go. And then I was not able to reinstall TikTok unless I reset my phone to get a new phone ID, a new Android ID, and then I was able to get another TikTok account. So I don't know. People don't like what I have to say normally, but lots of them do, of course. I have a lot of supporters among my followers, right? But oh man, I remember having to go through psychological battles with myself because I read the comments, right? And I was getting so much negativity at some point. This was last year, last summer or so, and some very nasty people coming for me on a daily basis, always with new accounts, of course, putting me down, trying to put me down in ways that started to affect my psychological health for a while. And then I didn't I didn't quite think of giving up, but I thought of like first maybe I should just disable the comments or I shouldn't read the comments anymore. And I started blocking people who were being nasty and so on, right? I enabled the filters and so on for the comment section. But in the end, I was able to overcome the whole psychological attack on myself through the comment system by simply strengthening myself. I strengthened my own mind in dealing with it, realizing that what people tell me, what people throw at me, isn't me. It's them. Once I figured that out, I could just brush off all the negativity and run with it and work with it. Um, so for this episode, if you're joining me in the comment section, I actually want to do just some chats with the followers. So like I said, I didn't prepare a main topic for this one. Although just today I made a video about the real reasons behind Germany's industry collapsing. The German industry is collapsing. It's a bloodbath, they say. Volkswagen fired over 10,000 people. Group Stahl, the big steel manufacturer, is going to fire or has already fired over 10,000 people. Other businesses are relocating to Hungary or to Dubai or to the USA or even to China. Germany is getting ripped left and right. And so I might touch on that during this episode, but I do love to talk. I do want to interact with the commenters today. So I can see your comments on my screen over here. By the way, I'm really proud of myself. I bought this big fat white light that is behind me that gives me a little bit of that studio aura, studio quality lighting. It's very basic and crude, obviously, but I am getting somewhat better at figuring out how to make a good show on how to make good video and so on, right? So, wow, I see a lot of people already commenting. Let's see if I can go through something. Here's some negative people again. But hey, go Johannes, right? You're the only smart man I've seen in all of Europe, right? Well, I'm not the only one. There's some smart women that I've met. There's a woman on TikTok called Daria, just Daria. She does very long, like 10-minute long videos, but she speaks about the intense, the spiritual war or the spiritual genocide that is being waged against the Europeans. Her videos are very interesting. You might look for her or Google her. Maybe I should type in her name. I think her name is something like just Daria with 3 A's. I think that's her username. You might want to look for that one because she's incredibly intelligent in terms of the spiritual process that the Western world, that we Europeans are going through specifically. It's very, very interesting. I have read a lot of Nietzsche books. Yeah, groovy Muppet. Uh, I'm going through the backlog of the comments here. Yeah, I read most of it. Like especially recently, I read a 1,600-page long book by the psychoanalyst Carl Jung. Right, he's famous. Right, Carl Jung is the famous psychoanalyst. He came up with the archetypes of the animus and the anima, and so on. Right, and he did a seminar in the 1930s, I think, before World War II, right? He did a seminar on Nietzsche's Zarathustra, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. So I studied that whole thing and what it meant and so on. And it is, wow. If you're into this and if you're like a bit of an intellectual type and you want to read a 1,600-page book, I recommend you read that book, Carl Jung's seminar on Nietzsche's Zarathustra. It's incredible the things he discusses, man. The about the occult, about how some of that is just real, how it works, how to get access to it. What Nietzsche did basically the idea here is that when Nietzsche wrote Zarathustra, he identified with this ancient Persian prophet and he became one with Zarathustra, as though it is actually Zarathustra speaking through the body, through Nietzsche as a medium, right? You may think this is hocus pocus, but read the book and you'll have a very different opinion about these matters. I read Nietzsche a lot, but also Heidegger, Martin Heidegger, Schopenhauer, lots of these German philosophers. Yeah, a little bit of Goethe, right? Um, though I have not read much of Kant, Immanuel Kant. It's not all not all of it is very interesting, of course, but I found Nietzsche and Heidegger, specifically Heidegger for me, I think Heidegger is very difficult to read, but there are passages, sections in Heidegger's work that will just blow your mind away, right? It's very interesting stuff. Here, hold on. I am going to block people who just insult me. You can criticize me, but if you're just throwing insults, then you're wasting my time. You're wasting everybody else's time. This is nonsense. Right. Selena, hi. How are you doing? The One World Order. He's not only smart, or I'm on the front lines. Yeah, I'd like to think so. Yeah. The video is very true. Yeah. Oh yeah, the video. Yeah, I know you're talking about the video about the Germans, right? So, Erdu Nursk. No, I'm Dutch. I'm from the Netherlands. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Some women are very strong, I noticed, and they're very right leaning. That's my theory about right wing women is they obviously support masculinity and maybe identify with it a little bit for their own protection. Let me say I know a woman, or I used to know a woman who got hurt badly by men, and then she actually began embracing masculinity a little bit for her protection, meaning she likes to be around strong masculine men who can protect her, right? And that is, I think, something that I think a lot of right-wing women, to some extent, share with each other, is that they, unlike the feminists who hate men and who hate masculinity, who speak of toxic masculinity, the women of the right obviously support masculinity. They want men to be strong and manly, largely because these women who aren't weak physically, but who want that protection, right? And so that is what I think is very interesting. I don't think I have an echo because I wouldn't know how that's possible, but I'll turn off. Somebody said I had an echo in the audio, but I'll turn off. All I can do is turn off this audio thing, and that's all I can do. I think other than that, Kant is very boring. Yeah, thought so. That's why I never really liked reading it. I think I must have read. I kind of track the books I read, and I've read over 1,300 books or so. Maybe that's interesting for this show if I could go through some books that I read while I, of course, interact with you in your comments. Maybe I'll just do that. That's a nice emergent idea, right? I have a program called Zotero, and I track the books I read. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. I could go through it. What shall I do? By author? Yeah, maybe by author first, and then I think, what does it say? Total books that I read. 1,333 books. And that's nothing to be proud of because, I I know a guy who read more than 30,000 books, and he reviews them on Amazon as well. So it's legit, right? Wow. So I thought I'll go over. Maybe I'll sort them by author or something. Oh, that's maybe a bit hard for me to do, right? Well, you know what? I'll just go while I'm reading your comments and doing the live. I'll just go over my book list and see if there's any more interesting books that I've read that I can talk to you about a little bit while we do something more. Yeah. Right. No echoes, no audio echo. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. On Pain by Ernst Jünger. Yeah, I read that one too. Yeah, that's an incredible book. This sort of book by Ernst Jünger is all about that aristocratic masculinism, right? The whole opposite of feminism, right? It's all about how you as a man, and you find this theme as well in Martin Heidegger, because Martin Heidegger and Ernst Jünger, they had like a letter relationship. They used to send each other lots of letters about philosophy and so on. So they influenced each other. And Heidegger and Jünger, yeah, they come up with this theme of what does it mean to be a man? And in essence, what it means to be a man is to not shy away from things like pain, risk of death, right? But to overcome this kind of fear and then truly, right in that, especially in the face of death and danger, you know exactly what to do, because it's precisely because you are confronted with great evil or some kind of insurmountable setback that you find within yourself unexpectedly the powers, right, to do what you need to do for your survival, right? In those final moments, you know exactly how to do this, I do that, and you live. Whereas too many other people, you notice this when you have like a school shooting or you have like a terrorist attack, lots of people, they just flail, they throw their arms around, they don't know what to do, they get shot, they're dead. But it is the man who looks danger right dead on, right in the eye, and knows exactly what to do, like hit that attacker in the face and you live, right? That's what it means to be a man. It is basically the hallmark of men is to overcome your own cowardice in the face of great danger, right? So is it wrong to be a coward as a man? Yeah, if you've had these moments in your life where you've been a coward and you didn't learn from that to become tougher and to become more confident, yeah, that is a big no. That is a loser strategy, right? What's on my shopping carts for books to read? Well, I'll go over the books that I've been that I have read. I don't know what my wish list is. I don't have that much in the wish list at this moment. But hey, from Ireland, yeah, how are you doing, right? How much you packing, Unc? What do you mean by that? Like, I don't know what you mean by that. All right. Yeah, if you don't appreciate my life, like if you call it blah blah blah, then why are you here? You know, you don't have to be here. All right. Here's an interesting book by Adamson, The Trojan Horse: A Leftist Critique of Multiculturalism in the West. You should always read the leftists, you know. What am I supposed to say to the question, am I a federal agent? What do you think? I live in the Netherlands. I'm Dutch. You think the CIA recruited me? Huh? Adorno. Oh, yeah, Theodore Adorno, old Theo Adorno. The Marxists, you know, they wrote that book, The Authoritarian Personality. And that's where basically anti-white racism started. These Jews from the, what was it, some kind of Marxist, the Frankfurt School in Europe, in Austria, I believe. They founded this school, and that's where it all started. The anti-white racism really started there because they started analyzing psychologically the so-called middle-class right-of-center voter, right? The white middle-class right-of-center voter. And they do a whole psychoanalysis of them, and they say this is wrong with them, and that's wrong with them, and that's wrong with them. They wrote a whole book about it, and it's all based on prejudice. It's just made up. It's largely just made up. And so, but they ran with it. The book, The Authoritarian Personality, basically it accuses middle-class white people of being authoritarians who follow someone like Donald Trump to war against Russia and China or whatever, right? Um, and actually, of course, it's the other way around. The leftists are not innocent. Just because they call us authoritarian, that does not make them innocent. They are actually totalitarians, right? And they call us authoritarians because we believe in God, we accept God's authority, right? Things like that, and they make that into a psychopathology and call you mentally ill for believing things, that for believing maybe there are some higher spirits and some higher realms out there, right? Right, and that's just nonsense, you know. Yeah, of course. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, the Frankfurt School. Yeah, Karl Popper as well. Yeah, obviously. Yeah, criminal books. Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna go over some more books I've been reading. Did you read the Green Book by Gaddafi? It was all right. It's a little bit of communist. It's like Marxism for Muslims, really. Although, yeah, he is also a bit ethno-nationalistic, and he makes a stand for obviously his own people. And what was it in Libya? Yeah, Gaddafi. I kind of liked Gaddafi. Sad that they took him out. I thought you could just talk to him, you know. Here, Saul Alinsky wrote several books called Rules for Radicals and Revive for Radicals. These books were well read by, say, Hillary Clinton and her clique, her clan. The American leftists, the radical leftists, yeah, they read books like this. It tells you their modus operandi, or what they do to fight, you know, what they do to fight us, you know. Yeah, I hope you like my book suggestions. So this is going to be a book suggestion hour. I'll just go through my Zotero and give you some recommendations. Um, because we need to develop ourselves intellectually. Obviously, we want to outsmart the enemy, outwit the enemy, right? Outmove the enemy, and it all starts with your thinking. You got to train your thinking. We've got to be a step ahead, or preferably 3 steps ahead or more, of the enemy, of the what do we call them? You know, Marxist, leftist, liberal, progressive, Zionist, Jews. You know, but the thing is, a lot of ordinary normie white people simply hate their own people so much they go along with it, right? Um, you know, I think. And what is it with Donald Trump? Donald Trump won the elections, but he's going to have just as much Zionist cabinet as Biden has, right? It's not. Although I do feel that they're throwing Netanyahu under the bus. That is an interesting development. There's um, something fishy in the state of Israel, right? Excuse me for taking sips. Call them the strangers, right? All right. If you have not heard of this yet, there's a very interesting website called. There's a website where you can find all these sagas. Oh, it's called sagadb.org, I think. And there you find translations of almost all of the old Viking literature that was written in Iceland. So you have like the story of the saga of Eric the Red. You have the story of Howard the Halt, the story of the Banded Men. Uh, and let me see here, the saga of Viglund the Fair, and so on and so forth. Not all of them are well written. Some of these were just written by ordinary people, and they're not very good writers. But some of them are just very, very interesting, and seem to also contain like true stories, like true history. Nice cup, yeah. I bought these in the supermarket, but I realized these are like Americans in the USA. They always have these red cups, right? Right, but it's an oddity here in the Netherlands. So, you know, as you may know, I used to live in Hungary and I moved back to the Netherlands. I got into trouble with the law here because apparently they were looking for me for a tweet I had sent 2 years ago, and I spent 12 days in the pre-trial detention, yeah, in jail, yeah, until they let me out again. Oh, this is a great book. If you've heard of this one, it's by Anthony. Wait, I gotta like, hold on. I need to like expand this so I can see the author names properly. Oh, All right, here, the book by David Anthony called The Horse, the Wheel, and the Language. The Horse, the Wheel, and Language, How Bronze Age Riders from the Eurasian Steppes Shaped the Modern World. It basically tells you the story of how some of Europe's ancestors, the Yamnaya and so on, and their ancestors living in southern Russia, also called Indo-European, bullshit. Don't call them Indo-European. Call them the steppe pastoralists, right? Because they didn't look like Indian brown people, right? They looked like what do Southern Russian people look like? They look pale and blondish, right? These people, they invented the wheel and so on, and exported that basically to Europe, making Europe then, because in those days they didn't have ships yet. So the one way to do trade at all was overland. And so you needed horse and wagons. So they had these race wagons with two wheels, just like you see in ancient Egypt. You have these pharaohs racing, horse racing with these two-wheel carts, but they also had the four-wheel wagons. Some of them were found in bogs in Denmark, so you can have a look at those as well. This is an incredibly well-written book. I really liked it. Yeah. Apollodorus, know your Greek classics, right? The original stories of Hercules, also called Heracles, right? Heracles. Hera is the name of his stepmom, and Cles is like, I don't know, what's it called, the son of or something. Hera's hero or glory or something. That's what it really means. The glory of his stepmom. All right. Oh, you know me from a long time? Yeah. Yeah, I've been on TikTok for 3 years, and I've been doing YouTube stuff for 2 years before that. So I hope, I must have some followers who, oh, you haven't seen me in a while. Oh, I see all sorts of people popping up now. Maybe TikTok is relaxing the restrictions on my accounts. I was just saying earlier that I lost so many accounts. I spent a lot of time fighting the censorship system. And I was forced ultimately to change the way I speak about things to prevent that censorship, because of course I want to get my message through, and I don't want to conceit myself or something, or like lie to myself by not telling you the truth. So I want to tell the truth in a way that passes the censor. So sometimes I sound a bit more mellow compared to years ago, but the message is the same, right? No, the Yamnaya were just, Nordic type people in my view. Just they were not brown. That is the myth of these British propagandists who want you to believe that ancient Europeans were brown people. That stuff is such nonsense, man. All right, Wotanic revival. You're convinced that civilization has its origins from the Aryans subjugating other populations. Yeah, seems like it, doesn't it? Yeah. But what happened? What happened to us? Why is it that in our modern time we're working for money? We're working for luxury goods and items. That ancient spirit of conquest is almost gone. There's something's not right. They put something in your water, right? Our testosterone levels have been dropping as a group, as a people, and that is something we need to restore by primarily exercise, sleep well. You have to sleep well. Eat your cholesterol, eat your eggs and your red meat, and get that shit back at the right levels, at prehistoric levels preferably, and also do more dangerous stuff. One thing that really boosts your testosterone as a man, of course, is confront danger rather than shy away or keep quiet. Confront it. You're going to feel instantly adrenalized, and that's good stuff, right? Dan Ariely, yeah, classic, but I didn't really like it. Aristotle, I read a lot of Aristotle. So I'm going through my book list to see if I can give you some interesting book recommendations while I try to interact with you on. You sound interesting, yeah. I have a lot to say, but I also have a lot of people who absolutely hate my guts, and they tell me every day, right? Yeah, they're blackwashing history. Do you know why they do that? Do you know why Great Britain and so on are rewriting their history to include minorities in their past? All right? Do you know why they do that? Because Britain and the US are planning to go to war with Russia and China, for sure. Like all out, like Third World War. But they're not going to win that war with just white soldiers. They need two things: if they're going to sacrifice the white soldiers, they need black and brown people to replace them. And if they can't win the war with just the white people, they still have to send the black and the black and the browns to war as well. So you may see, for example, that the Indian brown people are going to have to fight China. The black Nigerians, for example, may simply be shipped to Russia to fight in the snow in Moscow. Can you imagine that? It might actually happen. They're just exploiting people. But why? How can they do that? How can they exploit people? Well, sadly, too many people are just motivated by stuff and money, and like I said, luxury goods and watches and so on. And they kill themselves for that. I think a lot of Nigerian men are going to get caught up in this war against Russia and China, and they'll be fighting on the Western side, and that's why they're rewriting our history, and the Afrocentrism being pushed in your face and so on. I'm totally fine with Europeans colonizing others, because we are superior. So, good morning it's morning in New Zealand, Civnats, what's that? Civil, no? Civic nationalist. Oh, civic, that's about values, right? Value-based nationalism. Yeah, no. You can present me with people from India who share my values and beliefs, but I still don't want to live in India, and I don't want them all to live in Europe. That's not what this is about. This is about preserving our people. So, all right, I'm going to go through some. Let's see. You want to read a book about the Jews? Read this one by Hilaire Belloc, Belloc, published in 1922. Oh, that's the second edition, London. Hilaire Belloc. You can find it on Project Gutenberg. It's literally called The Jews. It's a pretty good book about them. For example, I remember this. If I call a British person a real Brit, they take no offense, right? You meet a real Dutch person and say, hey, you're a real Dutch person. They take no offense, right? But you meet a Jew and say, hey, you're a real Jew. They're angry, right? You called them out. And that's the thing with them. There's something weird about that. Europe and the Faith, the Poetic Edda. Oh, Belzoni. Giovanni Belzoni, he was like a real life Indiana Jones. He was the man who opened the Great Pyramid in Egypt, or found the tomb there. He has a book called The Narrative of the Operations and Recent Discoveries Within the Pyramids by Giovanni Belzoni. Quite an interesting. This is the life you need to have, people. You need to have this adventurous life where you go out and explore things, build things, make things. Sombart, Sombart also has a good one. Let's see. So I'm going over my book list, right, while I try to interact with you and see how well this episode goes. Here, The Longest Hatred, an examination of anti-gentilism. Oh, that's the word I was looking for. Anti-Semitism. What do we call it when they attack us? Anti-Gentilism, or could we call it something else? Maybe anti-Caucasianism or so, or anti-whiteism. I think anti-gentilism by Lady Jane Birdwood. She wrote the book on The Longest Hatred. Otto von Bismarck, Thoughts and Memories, Gedanken und Erinnerungen. I would go for Nietzsche over Plato. Plato is quite interesting, but you want to. I think Nietzsche builds on a lot of that anyway. Here we go. Bloomberg, Boetius. All right. I'm still at B. Here. Oh, Brzezinski. You know who Zbigniew Brzezinski was? Zbigniew Brzezinski was, sounds Russian. That's because they're from Russia, but they moved to the USA. He was the father of Mika Brzezinski of MSNBC. And this guy basically wrote the US-American foreign policy, the geopolitical strategy that they're working on right now. He wrote the book called Strategic Vision and the Grand Chessboard, and detailing basically what they want to do. They want to invade or destroy Russia, break it apart, and then isolate China, and then force the Chinese to forever serve the US wealth system in terms of them producing in the factories, low cost labor, and then selling to the West. You know? Brzezinski, yeah. Why does NATO want to conquer Russia? Well, it's necessary. If the USA and the Western elites, if they want to stay in power, they have to somehow eventually isolate China to, you know, so they can control it, right? Because they don't believe they can conquer or colonize China, but they can isolate it. And in order to do that, Russia is basically just in the way. That's why they have to take Russia to get rid of it, you know. Yeah, there are many theories about who the Jews are, where they're from. One of them says that they are basically from the Middle East, but recent genetic studies have shown that most Jews are related to southern Italians. So the Ashkenazi Jews, sorry, the Ashkenazim Jews, the ones from the Rhineland and Germany, they are not related to Germans. They are related to southern Italians. So think about that. Um, it is possible, of course, that there was a real exodus of Jews out of the Middle East, and then they got to Greece at some point, right? And then they got to Rome, ancient Rome, and then later settled in the Rhineland along the River Rhine in western Germany near Cologne. The German city Cologne, Colonia is literally called colony. It was a Roman colony where a lot of merchants settled. Guess who? Guess whose merchants, right? Them, the merchants. Yeah, I've heard of the Khazarian hypothesis. Yeah, the 13th tribe and so on. So I don't really know the truth. All I know is that genetics says that they're basically Mediterraneans, at the very least. Yeah. Camus, Carnegie, Chomsky, Noam Chomsky. I read a lot of Noam Chomsky because, of course, you want to read these smart leftists. It doesn't mean you agree with all of it, but you know. Oh, here's a good one by Paul Colin Vaux. The Fates of Nations, a Biological Theory of History. It dives into the matter of how to, what to expect from all this. And he basically says that there's going to be that Third World War, which is going to be basically, if I remember, it's going to be about, the future of Germany. Is there going to be a future Germany or not? You know. So if you're new here, if you're joining, this is my live show. I'm doing it once a week now, every Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. local time, Amsterdam time. And for this episode, I didn't have a main topic. And then I just meandered into discussing some books that I've read from the long list of books that I tracked. And meanwhile, you can just ask me questions and I'll interact with the audience a little bit. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, you know. Let's see if there's some more really interesting. Yeah, here. Have you heard of the Corpus Hermeticum? Where do you think the idea for the universe came from? Imagine the universe encapturing everything, and there's some kind of what, like an edge of the edge of the universe or something. The idea of an edge of a universe came from the Corpus Hermeticum. Apparently, an ancient Greek work translated into Latin during the Middle Ages. But I also learned that it was funded by certain very wealthy Italian families, and I find that really extremely suspicious. Maybe I shouldn't tell you this, but maybe I should. A lot of what we call modern science, they discover that the Earth is rotating around the sun, right? But of course, they didn't first discover it; they first imagined it. When what's his name? Not no, I forgot his name. Nico. Anyway, there was this scientist. It's so silly that I can't remember his name. This famous the scientist, the medieval scientist who found out that Copernicus, his name was Copernicus, right? So Copernicus postulates that the Earth is circling around the sun, but he wasn't the originator of this idea. he read that in the Corpus Hermeticum. So my point is, it's almost always in all of these grand discoveries, it's first the occultists, the magicians and the priests who postulate an idea or they imagine something, and then later science, quote unquote, proves the discovery. And that is extremely suspicious. The same with the idea that we are living in a galaxy of our own and that there are other galaxies. That idea by Giordano Bruno, I think, was also first postulated by occultists and then later apparently proven, right? The same with E equals mc squared. It was not proven by Einstein. It was postulated by him. And then later scientists with the Hubble telescope claim that they've proven that it is so. Sorry. So that's my point. Yeah, Copernicus, exactly. And so that's my point, that a lot of modern science is an after-the-fact proof of something that occultists had first postulated. And that is very, very suspicious. It makes you question the whole body of science. Yeah? Here, a quote by a great German man. The cosmos is infinite in all directions, outwardly and also inwardly. Ah, that's a very great one. That's a very nice saying, yeah. I think that's absolutely the truth, right? So I hope you're enjoying watching my show here. Or just talking about all sorts of books that you can read. Right, don't forget this one, Practical Idealism, the book by the infamous Richard von Coudenhove-Kalergi from the Kalergi Plan. Yeah, you should read the actual book, published in 1925. It became a hit among the European nobility. Why would they want this? So imagine almost 100 years ago, 99 years ago, this guy said that Europeans had to mix with other races and form a new mixed brown race, a mishmash race, right? And that he also wrote in that same book that he believed that the new urban leadership, Jews, should become the educators, basically the masters of the Gentiles. Why would this guy write about that? This guy was half Japanese, half Austrian, and presumably he wasn't Jewish. Why would he do that? Why would he write a book like that where he says that Jews have to become our leaders and basically breed the war strain out of the Germans? And basically in that book, they describe us native Europeans, the Germanics, the Celtics, and the Romans and so on. They describe us as a wild bunch, as barbarians, right? We like to go to war, and he writes about us being like irresponsible, and we deserve the new urban leadership, by which he means the Jews, right? That is yeah, the Jews mix too. Yeah, they mix too, but of course, that's how they spread themselves, right? Yeah, you think Kalergi was based? I don't think so. I read his books, and it's he really wanted to wipe. He was mixed himself, of course, mixed race person. He really projected that onto all of Europeans, basically hated us for the fact that he wasn't one of us, or not really, right? All right. Let me see. I'm only at D. Theodore Dalrymple is a pretty good author. He's very centrist, but he tells the truth, and that's important. He spent a lot of time living in Africa, and he tells you the truth about Africans, right? Here, The Emotional Life of Nations. That's something I recommend. Yeah, by Lloyd de Mause. He committed suicide for this book. He was ostracized by the academic community. His basic idea was that we are not really individuals. We do work as groups, and we have like collective, sensations that drive us to enact collective revenge, for example, right? War. Let's see. If you wanted to read all of the mustache man's, the painter's speeches, there's a chronicler called Max Domarus. Maybe I'll write it out for you. Max Domarus. It's like 4 tomes of like thousands of pages, but you can read what he really said. And the speeches are, of course, nowadays they have the AI version, right? Can you maybe find all the AI versions of his speeches? Maybe that's useful, but I am, yeah, Christian. I was born and raised in a Catholic school and community in the south of the Netherlands. Yeah, so that basically imprinted on me. I do think that our people need to stay Catholic, because what else are they supposed to do? You know, this is who we are now, and I think we need that religious angle and strengthen the spiritual bond with one another, so that we may resist one day government corruption and so on. Right. Right. Is Serbian language really based on Sanskrit though, or is it more like the other way around? You know, that Sanskrit and Serbian have a shared origin or somehow. I don't really believe these stories where they keep trying to pretend as though our ancestors were from India. They weren't. I go to church sometimes. Yeah, as one of the few people in the Netherlands who actually does that. You know. I don't know so much about the Dutch Reformed. You mean like the Protestant people? Yeah. I don't know. Do we really need that kind of schism again? Uh, if we are going to fight the common enemies, then we better find a way to ally ourselves now, right? To form alliances. Right? You're protesting Protestant, okay? Right, right. We should have, what is it called? The Latin Mass, right? The traditional Mass, and not the new gay Pope shit. You know, revelations. uh, oh, what's the topic? You want to know the topic? I'm just going through the books I've read on my Zotero list. Not all of them, but we're talking about, you know, what are interesting books to read and so on. And then I'm just interacting with the audience, right? Strength and unity, right? Yeah, the Orthodox churches are fuller, right? So then there's Orthodox Church, right? And this is more a bit more Slavic and Russian dominated. And yeah, interesting. This is the fastest growing Christian church in Western Europe. It's the Orthodox Church now. The Catholic people are dying out. Protestants never really cared about it, and now the Orthodox coming in. And of course, here you see why this is important, right? There is a very well a spiritual war going on, and at least so far as the West is fighting Russia, the Russians are winning the spiritual war, right? Because what the hell has the West got to offer but the Church of Satan and their LGBTQ and so on, right? It's not something that we. I need to watch my words, by the way, because even on the live shows, I would get reported and shut down for it. So far, so good, but you know, it's annoying. It was like I spoke about this. It's so frustrating when you every day you have to deal with the censorship. Sometimes I had like 10 videos taken down in a row, and I won the appeals 10 times in a row. And then, but it's so frustrating when TikTok crushes your virality, right? So your video goes viral and then they shut it down. Goes viral, but they shut it down, and it never gets to 100K views or so. Sometimes it does. I have some videos in the past week that went over 200K or so, but it doesn't. It won't let me go to a million. Right? I think I've had few videos over 500K and maybe one or two, three over a million. Right? But overall, I have a lot of viewers because I make a video a day or so on average. I have a lot of viewers who find me eventually, right? John Donne wrote a book on traditionalism, literally called Traditionalism, the Only Radicalism. That's a pretty good book by John Donne. Edward Dutton, Professor Dutton, you know who he is? I did an interview once with Professor Dutton. He's also a pretty good author. Race differences in ethnocentrism, for example. Right? How to judge people by what they look like. Yeah. If you're into like the more heathen Germanic stuff, there's a book by called God and Folk: Soldierly Affirmation. I recommend that one. That's really good. Yeah, the shadow banning is pretty nasty, but TikTok nowadays also, you know what it is? TikTok is usually honest enough to tell you that your video is not being pushed to the For You page. There's a message when you go to the analytics of the video. There's a message that says so. And the problem with that is sometimes they don't do that anymore. Like when you specifically talk about Zionism or so, then your video is shadow banned, but they don't tell you anymore that it's shadow banned, right? Yeah, did you hear that they're talking of shutting down TikTok tomorrow in Romania? Why? Because the pro-Russian candidate won the Romanian elections, so they're shutting down TikTok, which tells you also all about what TikTok is nowadays. TikTok has been captured by the Western intelligence agencies, right? So it used to be freer in the past, and now they're heavily censoring us because of this, right? Yeah, Richard Spencer. I thought he was a Fed. You know, so I've known about Richard Spencer for a long time, but I don't know if that's like also Nicolas Fuentes. I think that's also a Fed. I don't feel comfortable talking to them. You know? Here, Desiderius Erasmus. Yeah, Julius Evola. Yeah, I read a bunch of books by Evola. Revolt Against the Modern World, Men Among the Ruins, Ride the Tiger, Heathen Imperialism, and the Metaphysics of War. Yeah, I do recommend Evola. Evola was actually like a magician, right? In the occult sense, he uh, he practiced this occultism. Well, the new candidate, the new leader of Romania, the thing is, he is not the West's choice. He is Russia's choice, so to speak. Basically, the Western world now fears that Romania will fall in line with Russia, and that they're rebuilding the Soviet Union. But you know, the thing is, NATO tried to put their candidate in Georgia, the country Georgia, south of Russia, right? They put their candidate, obviously, famously, Zelensky, in power in Ukraine. And now Russia is doing the same. Russia's trying to put its candidates in, I don't know, Serbia or in Romania or in Bulgaria to try to win those countries over to side with Russia a little more in the grand scheme of things. It's basically a chessboard. And so far, both parties are winning equally a little bit. There's no clear victor here. Yeah, TikTok used to be a lot more anarchic. Yeah, no more anarchism. Yeah, like the internet. Right, right. Right, comments against Israel, all of it is censored, right? That's why I can't really mention them in my videos, because my videos would just get shadow banned. And if you get too many shadow banned videos, then your whole account gets shadow banned and I can't get through anymore, you know? So I have to, when you hear me talk about the billionaire class or the upper class, you kind of can guess what I'm talking about, right? Right. Twitter's a Western, I think TikTok has been captured by the Western intelligence nowadays, though. They are really doing the West's bidding. Juice, juice. I met some actual Jewish guys once on a vacation. They offered me juice, and they knew the joke, so that was pretty funny. And like fruit juice, and then they spoke about, like, we don't mind sharing our food with you, but of course we're not sharing our housing, right? Because they own a lot of houses. It's funny how ordinary Jews can be like that, whereas the Jews in the media are, totally different, right? Oh yeah, talking about them, Norman Finkelstein, The Holocaust Industry: Reflections on the Exploitation of Jewish Suffering. Well, you may get into things like that. I also read a lot of foreign language books, not just English, but I'll just recommend what I see here. Erich Fromm, he was a Frankfurt School Marxist. Erich Fromm, yeah. He wrote books like Marxist Concept of Man, To Have or To Be, On Disobedience, Why Freedom Means Saying No to Power. And you know, the thing is with these Marxist intellectuals, I like a lot of what they're writing, but they always default back to feeling sorry for minorities and feeling sorry for, ostracized people, when I feel that is holding you back from achieving much greater things in the world. Sometimes you just need to push some people out of the way, right? To get some things done. Orange juice, yeah. All right. I like this guy, Francis Fukuyama. Yeah, he's all right. Here we go. Goethe. I'll just browse through it because I've been talking for 50 minutes almost, but I'll keep talking. Maybe I'll just make it a bit longer show than usual. Let's see what else can we talk about. Oh yeah, here's a guy. Here's a one of the few academic professors who joined the Nazi Party. Hans Günther was one of them, and he wrote a book called "The Urbanization." So in German, "Die Verstädterung." The urbanization, its dangers for folk and state from the viewpoint of societal sciences, social sciences. He also wrote a book called Nobility and Race and Night, Death, and Devil, the heroic thought or the heroic ideal, probably, Hans Günther. And he gave a very interesting insight about cities. He found out that rural people who move to big cities, eventually their last name always disappears and dies out, suggesting that cities are not conducive to human life at all. Cities are black holes that suck people in and never give you back. The countryside is where human life is born. The city is where human life dies. Oh, here's a good author. C.R. Hallpike, The Ship of Fools, an anthology of learned nonsense about primitive society. And you also have other books on primitive society. He's very smart. He changes the way we tell the story of evolution, and he shows you how a lot of that is just nonsense. So the problem with the theory of evolution, briefly, is that it assumes that it's just individuals evolving, whereas Hallpike says, no. Individuals don't evolve. You evolve only in relation to a group, and there's group dynamics and network dynamics going on there, and that has a name called culture. The culture matters. The culture that you live in and that you express and that you experience is incredibly influential in terms of the direction of your people, racially speaking. The culture matters, right? It's not just individuals choosing mates. It's the culture guiding the whole dating system for those individuals. Martin Heidegger, What is Called Thinking? All right, that's a really good book, very deep. Woe unto him who hides the desert within. That's a quote by Nietzsche. All right. I think Heidegger was also somewhat involved in the occult. A lot of these very smart people, they have a secret private life that they never talk about, right? My opinion on National Socialism is you should read the book Prussianism and Socialism by Spencer, right? And basically it sums it up. If you care for your people, you should give them socialistic policy so that they can grow and develop well. Basically, you're growing your people, strengthening them, feeding them well, housing them well. These are socialist policies because not everybody can afford that, right? And then you can have also a big army. So that's Prussianism and socialism. So I'm basically a Prussian socialist. I think, right. Why not? It seems to be a very sensible policy that you care for your own people and try to optimize them, right? What's wrong with that? The idea that it's wrong to be supportive of your own people is the wrong idea, clearly, right? Yeah, you're from South Africa and you know what it's like to fall into a minority. Yeah, we're going to experience that maybe in Europe. But then again, there are still so many white people in Europe, like 600, 700 million of them, right? Although, yeah, we have aging demographics, but still, that will, even if the old people would all die off, we'd still have 300 or 400 million. That is enough, I'd say, to find somewhere, like we can start something bigger than Orania in South Africa, this ethno community, right? We can start 1,000 of those or 10,000 of those, or we can start entire new nations, whatever we want to do. All we have to do is find the spirit, the motivation to go out and do those things, like start new nations for ourselves. Just get a piece of territory the size of Germany or twice the size of Germany and just do whatever the hell we want there and not be such pussies about it anymore, like waiting for permission or something. The world will never give us permission. If you allowed the world to vote democratically whether they want to take us out, I think the majority of the world will vote to destroy white people. So we cannot rely on others. We have to rely on ourselves, make a stand, put our foot in the door, right? No, I like Gaddafi's personality, his style, not necessarily that he was like a Muslim supremacist or something. Of course, I like his personality. He was a powerful man, yeah, funny as well. Right, don't be pussies, right? In our traditions, right? Right, right. So I was shocked to find out that last year, 2023, 1 million abortions took place in the USA. 1 million. And there were only 3.5 million children were born, and then 1 million abortions. Wow, there's something really wrong in the USA because they have like millions of immigrants a year, but they kill 1 million of their children too. Why would you do that? Something's wrong. And I think it's mostly financial, that lots of women feel they can't afford to have the child, to raise it. It's too expensive to send them to school in the USA anyway, right? And so they decided to just get rid of it because, well, they can't see a future for it. I think it is like that, plus the massive propaganda on top of that, of course, right? You're a colored person, okay. Carl Jung is pretty good. Franz Kafka, I read a lot of Franz Kafka. And then let's see. I barely got to the letter L in terms of last names, but let's see. I can go on for a little bit more if you don't mind. Yeah, I can understand Afrikaans a little bit. I used to listen to their podcasts a little bit and some of their music, the Afrikaans music. What's wrong with being woke? He means a colored person. Like in South Africa, there's like, you have the white people, the colored people, and then the black people. Colored people would be like mixed race, or maybe I don't know if they also include Asians or something, or Indian people. I can speak Dutch, yeah, but this is my English channel. I don't do Dutch live streams anymore because the Dutch audience was extremely negative. I decided it's not worth my time. Like always, every time it was extremely negative. And so at least here in English, I see a lot of people doing well, yeah. Yeah, Dutch and Afrikaans are very similar languages, yeah. I speak Dutch, of course. I'm Dutch, but I tried to learn some Afrikaans, and of course, first the sound was so different, the pronunciation took me a few days to start hearing what you were saying, and then oh, this is really similar. This is just like us. Yeah, this is just Dutch, right? Yeah, every European is being replaced by the mass immigration, but replacement tends to be at the bottom of society, in the lower class primarily, at least for now. Although they're pretending that the newcomers are all scientists and engineers, they're not. Half of them can't read and write, and they can never be employed. They're unemployable. Who's going to pay for that? Not the German economy. Germany is collapsing. Let's see if I could find. Oh, Arthur Müller von den Bruck. He wrote the book The Third Empire, The Third Reich, Das Dritte Reich. That was a pretty good book. He wrote it in 1931, before the whole idea was even conceived. Nietzsche. Yeah, I read a bit of Nietzsche. Götzendämmerung, Twilight of the Gods. Right. And Ecce Homo, also sprach Zarathustra. Yeah. All right, let's see. I'm going to wrap up reading the list here. I read a lot of Plato, of course. Yeah. And what else? Let's see if there's something more interesting here. Alfred Rosenberg, The Myth of the 20th Century. You can read that one. That's pretty interesting. Is Jordan Peterson a bootlicker? I think Jordan Peterson is actually a communist or a Marxist. And he told in one of his videos, Jordan Peterson said that he was always friends with Jewish people in high school. And I guess that stuck with him. I guess he either is one of them and doesn't want to say so, or he psychologically simply wants to be friends with the powerful people, right? He's one of those, right? He just wants to be in the club, you know. Yeah, he's serving Zionism. Yeah, he wrote a whole book about it. About I think his book was called Israel. Literally, he says Israel is a we who fight God or something. And he wrote a whole book about that. Man, what do you think? What do you think? Whose side he's on? You know, The Burning Souls by Leon Degrelle. I have not read that one yet. I'm going to read it. That's one I want to read. Yeah. Yeah, and Douglas Murray too. I mean, they give us these weird homosexuals, and we're supposed to like follow them and believe them or something. But these are not the people we want. We want Leon Degrelle, right? The Burning Souls. Yeah. Schopenhauer is pretty good. I only read one book by Shakespeare, The Tempest. I never liked Shakespeare. I don't know what the hype is all about. Shakespeare is so hyped up, but once you start reading it, I just thought it was boring. You know, I saw one movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger in Lost Action Hero. There's a scene with where he plays Hamlet. That's the only Shakespeare I've ever seen. You know. Oh, Spengler here. Prussianism and Socialism. Oh, sorry, I said Spencer earlier, but I meant Spengler, of course. Oswald Spengler wrote Prussianism and Socialism. That's a really good book. And what else have we got here? Also by Oswald Spengler is Man and Technology, or Man and Technics. Also a very good book. Rudolf Steiner, The Occult, yeah. Tacitus. Thoreau, Walden, that's a good book. Tolstoy, of course. Toynbee, you know, the historian Arnold Toynbee also wrote a whole book about the Jews, basically concluding that it was their own damn fault that they got hunted down eventually. He had to write an apology letter for that, but he did publish it. So let's see if there's maybe some final suggestions here for you, and then I'll have a look at I don't know. Yeah, I read a lot of Noam Chomsky as well, because he's smart. You have to read these smart people's books to figure out what are they after, what do they believe in. Strangely, Chomsky kind of, yeah, he defends Israel and blames Christians for problems in Israel. Okay, dude, you're making stuff up, you know. But that's how they think, you know. They just blame others. Oh, here's a really good book by the architect Frank Lloyd Wright. Frank Lloyd Wright, he wrote a book called Genius and the Mobocracy. That's a good book. Very, very smart man. I'm probably one of the smartest people you've ever met, ever heard of. He died, of course. He doesn't live anymore, but Frank Lloyd Wright, the American architect, Genius and the Mobocracy. Have you done any fasting? I've sometimes done some fasting, yeah. I don't make a sport out of it, no. I'm doing deadlifting now. Twice a week I go to the gym to do some deadlifting. And I try to do like, first I noticed my bottleneck was literally my grip strength. I was just not strong enough to hold on to the bar. Now my grip strength is improving and I can do a lot more instantly. And now I feel not quite my lowest back muscles, but just above that. There's some muscles there that are weak, their weakest link. And so I'm training those now to get stronger in that section. And then, so that's how you figure out the deadlift will show you your weaknesses, but it's okay. Just figure out what is my weakness. And then you train those muscles, get stronger in that area. And then you continue your deadlift routines. And that way you can build build more strength. I think my aim is I want to do twice my body weight, and I weigh 120 kilograms or 115 or so. So I want to aim for 230. If I could do like 5 times or something, not once, but like 3 times or 5 times twice my weight. Yeah. Five reps of twice my weight in the deadlift. I'm going to aim for something like that. You have to have goals. If you don't have goals, you will never achieve anything. Most successful people, they set goals. And then not only do they set the goals, they also put in their agenda, in their calendar, week by week, day by day, what do I do now? Today I do this, tomorrow I do that, next week that, next week that. They have their weekly routines and their daily routines to keep working toward achieving those goals. If I want to deadlift twice my weight, then I have to put that in my calendar at least twice a week and go to the gym, do your deadlift routines. So I figure out your weaknesses, strengthen your grip, and so on and so forth. And then keep doing that until you've achieved the goal. Right? That's how you do it. Set the goal, and then also imagine how are you going to achieve it. And that's hard, man, because I know mentally it can be very fatiguing and frustrating. Like, okay, I want to achieve this, but then I don't really want to do all that work. And then push yourself. You got to push yourself. Do it anyway. Do those things that will what are the things you need to do every day or every week to achieve those goals? Because if you don't do those weekly and daily things, you will never achieve your goals. You have to push yourself. Put it in your calendar. Get good at using a calendar, right? Or a to-do list or whatever you use. You can use something else. You can use a little notebook with a pen and paper, with pencil, no problem. Do it your way, but do it, right? Get your weekly activities down on paper somewhere and your daily even, and keep doing those things. Push yourself, right? And resting is part of the routine. You got to rest so you can grow, right? So resting is part of your routine, right? All right. I think I'm going to quit talking about the books and so on. I read a ton of books. Lots of them are quite interesting, but I can't say much about all of them, of course. All right. So is my program running out? I wasn't watching myself on screen all the time, so I was glad to see that. Yeah, the video is all right. See. Yeah, I also do boxing. Yeah, after my deadlifts, I have boxing gloves, and my gym has this boxing bag, so I can practice some boxing after the deadlifts. Right? Yeah, it's very good. I like that stuff. Yeah. All right. Yeah, lots of Germans, Southern Germans have brown hair. The blonde is really around the Baltic Sea, right? I am blonde, obviously, but I'm from the south of the Netherlands. Yeah, yeah. The blonde people are really concentrated around the Baltic Sea. Weighted squats. Yeah, I do squats sometimes as well. Yeah, with the bar on my shoulders, just regular squats, right? All right. So I've been speaking to you for hour and 10 minutes. Usually I wrap it up after an hour, right? And so I will be back next week, Wednesday. I'm going to do this weekly, try to keep that up. Next week I will prepare some main topic again. This time it was a bit more coincidental. Well, could I introduce myself again? Okay, this is Johannes, the Great Johannes at the Great JMK on TikTok, and also at the Great Johannes on YouTube, the Great Johannes podcast on YouTube. I'd like to drink raw milk. I have no trouble with it, but I have trouble finding it where I live. So I don't go out to the farms often to get raw milk. But yeah, if I could just buy it easily, I would just drink that. No problem, you know. The sun will rise, yeah. All right. See you next week. You can also find me on Twitter at JohannesMKX. And do I have any more channels? Oh, I have my newsletter at www.jmk.info. You can subscribe for free and stay in the loop. I will sometimes send out text or an article, or sometimes one of my videos with a transcript and so on, right? You can get those in the mail if you want. no more often than once a day, usually just 2 or 3 times a week or so. And you can support me financially on something like buy me a coffee at Johannes MK, or on my newsletter. There's a paid option as well. If you want to pay like $7 a week, or sorry, a month, $8 a month or so, you can do that as well. But of course, I'm trying to build some kind of financial support audience so that I can maybe switch to being like a full-time activist. That would be nice. I don't quite know if I should be known as a grifter, but on the other hand, yeah, I need to figure out how do I get people to actually support me so that I can be like all those other pundits who have so much cash to spend. Seemingly, they have professional studios and so on, professional lighting systems. They're pros. If I want to go pro as a pro podcaster or as a pro activist, I am going to have some kind of financial stream. So I'm going to be thinking about that. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. And until next time, right? See you next week. I'm going to end the live now. Bye-bye.